waiting for a visa. It was 11th day of my stay in the inn. I had taken my morning meal and had dressed up and was about to step out of my room to go to office. As I was picking up some books which I had borrowed overnight for returning them to the library, I heard footsteps of a considerable number of people coming up the staircase. I thought they were tourists who had come to stay and was therefore looking out to see who these friends were. Instantly I saw a dozen angry-looking, tall, sturdy Parsis, each armed with a stick, coming towards my room. I realized that they were not fellow tourists and they gave proof of it immediately. They lined up in front of my room and fired a volley of questions. Who are you? Why did you come here? How dare you take a Parsi name? You scoundrel! You have polluted the Parsi inn. I stood silent. I could give no answer. I could not persist in impersonation. It was in fact a fraud and the fraud was discovered. And I am sure if I had persisted in the game I was playing I would have been assaulted by the mob of angry and fanatic Parsis and probably doomed to death. My meekness and my silence averted this doom. One of them asked when I thought of vacating. At that time my shelter I prized more than my life. The threat implied in this question was a grave one. I therefore broke my silence and implored them to let me stay for a week at least, thinking that my application to the minister for a bungalow would be decided upon favorably in the meantime. But the Parsis were in no mood to listen. They issued an ultimatum. They must not find me in the inn. The evening, I must pack off. They held out dire consequences and left. I was bewildered. My heart sunk within me. I cursed all and wept bitterly. After all I was deprived of my precious possession, namely my shelter. It was no better than a prisoner's cell. But it was to me very precious. After the Parsis were gone I sat for some time engaged in thinking to find a way out. I had hopes that I would soon get a state bungalow and my troubles would be over. My problem was therefore a temporary problem and I thought that going to friends would be a good solution. I had no friends among the untouchables of Baroda state. But I had friends among other classes. One was a Hindu. The other was an Indian Christian. I first went to my Hindu friend and told him what had befallen me. He was a noble soul and a great personal friend of mine. He was sad and also indignant. He, however, let fall one observation. He said, "If you come to my home my servants will go." I took the hint and did not press him to accommodate me. I did not like to go to the Indian Christian friend. Once he had invited me to go and stay with him. But I had declined, preferring to stay in the Parsi inn. My reason was that his habits were not congenial to me. To go now would be to invite a rebuff. So I went to my office, but I could not really give up this chance of finding a shelter. On consulting a friend I decided to go to him and ask him if he would accommodate me. When I put the question his reply was that his wife was coming to Baroda the next day and that he would have to consult her. I learned subsequently that it was a very diplomatic answer. He and his wife came originally from a family which was Brahman by caste and although on conversion to Christianity the husband had become liberal in thought, the wife had remained orthodox in her ways and would not have consented to harbor an untouchable in her house. The last ray of hope thus flickered away. It was 4 p.m. when one left the house of my Indian Christian friend. Where to go was the one supreme question before me. I must quit the inn and had no friend to go to. The only alternative left was to return to Bombay. The train to Bombay left Baroda at 9 p.m. There were 5 hours to be spent. Where to spend them? Should I go to the inn? Should I go to my friend? I could not buck up sufficient courage to go back to the inn. I feared the Parsis might come and attack me. I did not like to go to my friend. Though my condition was pitiable, I did not like to be pitied. I decided to spend the 5 hours in the public garden, which is called Kamthi Bagh, on the border of the city and the camp. I sat there partly with a vacant mind, partly with sorrow at the thought of what had happened to me, and thought of my father and mother as children do when they are in a forlorn condition. At 8 p.m., I came out of the garden, took a carriage to the inn, brought down my luggage. The caretaker came out, but neither he nor I could utter a word to each other. He felt that he was in some way responsible for bringing him into trouble. I paid him his bill. He received it in silence, and I took his leave in silence. I had gone to Baroda with high hope. I had given up many offers. It was wartime. Many places in the Indian educational service were vacant. I knew very influential people in London, but I did not seek any of them. I felt that my duty was to offer my services first to the Maharaja of Baroda, who had financed my education. And here I was, driven to leave Baroda and return to Bombay after a stay of only 11 days. This scene of a dozen Parsis armed with sticks lined before me in a menacing mood, and myself standing before them with a terrified look imploring for mercy, is a scene which so long a period as 18 years has not succeeded in fading away. I can even now vividly recall it, and never recall it without tears in my eyes. It was then for the first time that I learned that a person who is an untouchable to a Hindu is also an untouchable to a Parsi.